One thing I'm going to circle back on real quick, how do you make that leap, that bridge between being a reconnaissance pilot and then wind up being an Air Force One pilot? Like what's that process look like? How does that selection process look like? Is it an application thing? Like I don't think anybody knows, like how do you go from this to this?
Fun fact on that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been cleared for takeoff. You are now flying high with Travis Lamance.
Flyin High, welcome to another special episode. We are recording in front of a live audience here at the King Air Gathering in Horseshoe Bay, Texas today. Got an amazing guest with us today. We have retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Cole with us. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You've flown missions in combat, and you've also supported the President of the United States. What's the moment in your career that still gives you chills?
So everything that you do in the military is kind of like you're there. You're just like, hey, I'm just kind of doing my job. I think the part that really stood up for me was when I was flying Cheney, and we flew Vice President Cheney to Atlanta. And my mom's family is from Atlanta area. And so my grandmother and my aunt were there, and I called them. I was like, hey, if you're there, once we land, I can get you up to the plane so you can see the plane and you can come on board and all this stuff. So we land there, and from a family history standpoint, it's just a really big deal. Both my parents went to Tuskegee University. It's a historically black college university in Alabama. And from this very small, humble beginnings, and then my great uncle was a original Tuskegee Airman. And so to have that and then get there, Secret Service was stopping them, and so I had to come out. And I said, hey, these two individuals are good. They can come through. I was number one grandson and number one nephew from that point on.
Right.
I've been holding the title ever since. I was able to bring them up, and it just really made it, just seeing her proud, and it just really brought something amazing into me. And I mean, I've done a lot of different things, but that really, really for me was a big deal. A really big deal.
Set an awfully high bar for the rest of the grandkids.
Oh, yeah. No one
can
pass me. No, I got it. Yeah. That's good, dude.
That's phenomenal. That's really cool. So walk me through the moment that you first realized, wow, I'm flying missions directly tied to the POTUS.
What's crazy is you go through all this training, you start out as a co-pilot, you're doing everything and you're all part of it, but like we switch off who's going to land. You've been landing forever. All this time, it's not that big of a deal. And then it's always like right as, you're doing your thing, all right, we're coming in on this approach, you're thinking about the approach. And then right about 500 feet, you're just like, oh, shoot, I better not mess this up. You're just like, oh, but I've done it all the time. And it doesn't matter. And even flying for United now, I think about it, but then I know my capabilities. Mm-hmm. I know what I can do. And it doesn't matter who's on board, because real talk, the most important passenger is me.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to.
You want to go home?
So, yeah, I do want to go home. And so, I do my best, and been trained for a long time. So that belief in it really allowed me to kind of step in, step back, and like, it's good. And all the different people, and even when we went from the Bush administration to the Obama administration, which are vastly different experiences, it was just really amazing for me. So
I'm sure it's a little harder to live down a bounce landing with the president, though.
Yeah. No, you're just, you plan it, you're just like, you roll it out. You're like, hey, it's a long runway, right? All right, yeah, we're going to float down 5,000 feet, make it smooth.
That's funny. What's something about being a presidential pilot that you think most people misunderstand?
Part of the entire cadre of pilots that work there, I think we have 1st Airlift Squadron, you have the 99 Square Airlift Squadron, and you have the Presidential Airlift Group. So those are the three different areas that are supporting the president, presidential White House operations. What you don't realize is we are the ones that we do all the planning. We make sure, hey, can we land there? Is the fuel good? Can we get that fuel there? Is the plane going to be too heavy? Are we going to slip into the concrete? Because these are all non-standard airports that we're bringing large aircraft in. Because always the party wants to get as close. Like I was joking last night. I was like, they'd probably try to want to land here at this airport. And we're like, dude, we can't bring a 7.4, can't even bring a 7.5 in there.
Yeah.
But they always want to be as close as possible to the event that they're trying to do. So that whole process is 2 to 3 weeks of planning.
Right.
So it's very rare that the president, vice president, first family ever just like, hey, we're going to go here. There's a huge lead time, and it can take, especially overseas missions, that's 1,000 to 1,500 people involved with a presidential movement.
I was involved with one time at a rural airport where they were coming in, and they showed up like a month ahead of time, and they were out there like testing the asphalt density with some tools to make sure that
we secure the fuel too.
Really?
So if we need fuel, we test it, we secure it, and then it's off. Secret Service comes in. They do all their stuff. They secure the area. And so it's never a surprise when we show up. There is a whole lot of people involved with any kind of presidential movement.
Growing up with a father who was a U.S. Air Force colonel, how did that shape your view of aviation and discipline in life early on?
So my dad, he was an engineer, an architect. He had told me about stuff, but like standard teenager, you're like, Dad, you don't know nothing. So, but I was, for a lot of you, and I think a lot of the pilots out here, I think we get that inkling to want to fly.
Right.
Like, so you'll get it at a young age. And for me, I was 12 when that happened. We lived in Okinawa, Japan, and we're at Kadena Air Base, and they had the SR-71, which is the fastest plane in the world. And so I had a good friend. I'm going a long ways to get back to you. But I had a good friend whose dad was an SR-71 pilot, and we got to tour the plane. And I looked in there, and I was like, oh, man, this is so amazing. You get so close to it. You could see in the cockpit and everything. And I remember distinctively as a kid, an amazing moment that I still tell about is there was a hill. And we went back. When I was a kid, I thought it was like, it might have been a mountain, might have been Mount Everest. But when we went back to Okinawa, it was like 50 feet high. But I remember we would go up on that, and you could hear the engine start, and it would go out, and it would taxi. And I just remember the runway is east-west. And I remember just seeing those blue flames coming off, and it just goes, and then it disappears. And I was like, I want to do that. And that's when I was like, hey, I want to be a pilot. And they had F-15s there, and I was like, yes, I want to do all of that. He told me, he goes, all the pilots I know went to the Air Force Academy. I was like, all right, where's that? And I was like, all right, let me just try there. And so I went there, and he wasn't strict on me. He's just like, hey, I think this is kind of a good idea. Growing up military and then going to a military academy, I'm very structured.
Yeah. So
it helped me just kind of like, all right, let me go that direction, see where this takes me. And I flew neither one of those planes.
Really? Yeah. Was it hard to get into the academy?
I was doing pretty well and pretty good in high school. So it's a very competitive service academy. So you have Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, West Point. Coast Guard has a service academy. So it's 4,400 cadets in Colorado Springs. It is a competitive environment. I thought it was smart until I got there. I was like, man, there are some smart. I was like, you can max the SAT? And there were people, I was like, goodness gracious. I didn't think people could do that. But great experience, lifelong friends. I still have friends from 17 when I got there that are still my very close friends. You create a bond. I think the military does that a lot, where you're just faced with very intense experience because it's not a normal college experience by any means. Getting through that and surviving it. And all of us retired. My close knit of friends that were from 17 were all retired lieutenant colonels and colonels. Everybody stayed for 20 years, which that was not necessarily the plan when we first got there at 17.
It just worked out that way, huh?
It did. It's just an amazing, strong, close-knit group of folks.
When we were chatting a little bit last night, that's one of the parallels that you mentioned that was a major adjustment going from military flying to civilian flying was that bond of that crew and flying with the same people and being real close and knowing how to support each other versus now you just show up and you never know who you're going to be partnered with. Has that been a big challenge for you to cross that barrier?
I think it is a challenge. I accept challenges. We kind of work with it. The airlines is designed to just like, hey, you and I show up. You know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing. Let's go do this. Work together. And the captain is supposed to create the environment for collaboration.
Right.
In the military, you knew everybody you were flying with. In the airlines, I think I've flown with the same first officer. I think there's 3 first officers that I've flown with more than once. So it's like 2, 1 time, 3 times. And I've been a captain at United over 3 years. Yeah. And even when I was a first officer, I never flew with the same captain. So the adjustment is just a matter of you play the 30-second game. Hey, what's your background? What'd you do? How'd you get here? But everyone knows what you're supposed to do. The difference in the airlines is very repetitive. Yeah. So you go through, and I fly a whole lot more in the airlines than I did in the military. In the military, it's a lot of practicing, where they're training and you're doing the other things, and then you go fly an operational mission. In the airlines, every time you show up, you're on. All right, we're going to LA, or you're going anywhere.
What's something you learned at your time in the Air Force Academy that still affects how you operate today?
There's some tenets at the Air Force Academy: service, integrity, excellence in all we do. The integrity aspect of it is big to me. Yeah. In my operations and in my life, I just feel like having that level of integrity is true to that person. And so things happen in life, but if you have a level of integrity, we can all work together.
Right.
And I feel that that's super important to me. And I try to do, like, when I'm set to a task, I'm trying to do it. That is where my focus is. That's where I want to complete that task. Sometimes to a fault, but I'm just like headstrong. Hey, we got to get this done. And my wife will attribute to that, that I get a little too headstrong on certain things. But those tenets really carried through in my entire life and everything that I've done from the Air Force. And I had the ability to, when I retired, I worked for Boeing. I ran the Air Force One program. I was a senior manager for that. And then making a decision to switch to come back to flying was just, all right, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. I'm going to focus on this. I want to be the best I can be at it and recognize that I'm always learning and staying in that. So
I like that you touch on integrity, because I feel like whether military or civilian, the integrity piece is paramount to safety. And we have all these pilots and passengers that are climbing on these aircraft and trusting us to have the integrity of when to say no and when something's not right. And I think people that lack integrity get ran out of this industry relatively quickly.
Or people get hurt.
Yeah,
that's the most dangerous part.
Exactly. So, if they don't get ran out soon enough, it leads to that. So I love that you touched on that one. You have 1,200 plus combat hours. What does that actually feel like from inside the cockpit, putting that many combat hours in?
So all of that was when I was flying a plane called the RC-135, rivet joint. I flew rivet joint, combat sim, constant Phoenix, Cobra Ball. All those aircraft are reconnaissance aircraft, so we'd be alone and unafraid. But like in Iraq and Afghanistan, that would be when we were out supporting combat operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. What I bring up is when you're doing it, you're with everybody else. It's like, hey, we're going. All right, we're doing this. And I've never shot anyone. I've been shot at. But again, even when we were being shot at, I was like, ooh, that's kind of close, when you see that. But we're outside the threat circles, if you will,
right.
Or at least whoever drew those circles, they said that we're outside that.
And,
all right, well, somebody drew that circle. I guess we're good.
I'll trust the circle.
So it's probably good. So operating out of that, you're doing that, and when you're with a group of people that are all in line with that,
right.
Supporting, defending the Constitution of the United States, we're out there. Hey, this is our job. This is our mission. And so it's not as you don't sit there, hey, we're doing combat time. Because once you're there, you're there. Mm-hmm. You're like, all right, everything we fly, we're potentially in danger. But you don't, I think that's why the military hires you in your 20s and 30s. You're like, man, we're good, baby.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Yeah. What's your craziest mission story you can tell us?
Okay, so one of the planes I flew was the Combat Scent. So this is a reconnaissance platform. We start at high altitude, we go at low altitude, and we go against Russian Chinese. So it's just a cat and mouse game. So we're in the South China Sea, going around, doing our thing. We would get down, so between 100 and 300, somewhere in that window. But you're doing 300 knots, and that's a big plane. It's a 4-engine aircraft. It is massive. And when you're doing 300 knots that low, you're like, I think we're rooster tail. I can't look back. Yeah. You're not, but we're a big plane and we're going low. We're in an area where there's nobody that really likes us. We're not really supposed to be there.
Right.
And the other pilot that was with me, Glenn Roberts, we were both instructors at the time. We're flying daylight, and I kind of catch a glimpse in my eye, and I was like, hey, did you see that light? He's like, man, I didn't see nothing. I was like, all right. And then the example I give is like, if you ever watch Pulp Fiction, when they open the suitcase and it's like super bright, the glow on. When that light came on again, it was so bright, and it was our oil filter bypass light.
Right.
So that just means we're going to that engine is getting contaminated, and we need to secure the engine. That plane is extremely underpowered, and we're about to lose 25% of our power, and we're at 100 feet, at least 1,500 miles from our base. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so it really got my attention, and we're like, all right, I know what to do. Because you practice that all the time. All right, let's secure it. Let's go through the checklist. I told the navigator, I was like, hey, we need to point us back. We need a heading back. And we're not talking to anybody. We don't talk to air traffic control, and we're in the middle of the ocean, and we're trying to get back and climb. And we can't climb as high as normal because we're down, and the plane is naturally already pretty heavy. And I just remember that time where I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is not good.
Not a great
all the
place
times I've flied, this is not a good experience. To lose, and I've had engine failures before, and you're just like, all right, you got it, you do that, but never that low to the ground, knowing, because usually when you're up at altitude, all right, I got energy, right, that I can translate. This, I got to use all my energy to get back up. So that one really caught my eye. I still talk about it to these days. I used it for my interview at United, that it was really a time where you startled, and then you go back into your steps. You're like, all right, what do we got to do? All right, this is a checklist. All right, do the checklist, get that stuff
Yeah,
going.
so you just kind of had everything working against you. You're in a territory you shouldn't be in, not an ideal place for a swimming
Nope, I didn't want to swim. Nope. Yeah, that was, and then I got 35 other operators and analysts in the back that they don't have an idea, and they're like, wait, why are we going back? I'm like, well, we're gonna need to turn off some of your equipment because you're pulling too much power.
Yeah.
But it was amazing from that aspect.
Yeah. I bet it's a little startling to boats out there when you're 100 feet off the ground and
that's the point.
Surprising them.
That was good. Yeah. You see a big plane. I mean,
yeah,
it's almost the same size. It's about the same size as 757. So
yeah,
it's a large aircraft. So
I hadn't heard of that particular aircraft, and you were telling me a little bit that it takes fuel on board. It's normally a refueler, but you have it configured to take on fuel, and
so the KC-135 is the tanker.
Mm-hmm.
The Air Force, in their infinite wisdom, said, hey, well, we'll take that plane. It doesn't give gas. We're going to put all these antennas on it and all these people in it, and then we're going to put an air refueling receptacle on top. That was my first assignment after I finished pilot training. And I went there, and I just remember first time doing air refueling, 275 knots, 75 feet from another plane.
Right.
And you could do another KC-135 or you do KC-10s. KC-10 is massive, but KC-135 is similar. But you're still coming up. You start 3 miles back, go to a mile, and it's just a 30-degree. I'm trying to remember now. But I do know, drop the seat all the way down, you go all the way forward, you always have the same sight, and you have your sight picture. And it's just like little corrections. Yeah. But when you first do it, you go up, the instructor's got it, he's like, all right, you got the aircraft? And you're like, all right, I got the aircraft. And you're like this. And then immediately you're like, you're all, and it's backwards from what you think, because you have to stop the turn, but then it's just like, all right, I have the aircraft, and they bring the plane back, and you go back up. Once you get good at it, it's a piece of cake. I did that for 9 years. I was very good at it. And so we do it in turns. You do it everywhere. And so in that mission, if you can't do air refueling, you never upgrade to captain.
Right.
The unfortunate part about it is that once you take all that gas, you can't land.
Yeah.
So you fill up 100,000 pounds of fuel, and you're just like, oh my gosh.
You can't land for
we got 7 more hours till we're going to be able to land.
Your guys are running 23, 24-hour missions, right?
I have done a 23. My longest mission is 23 hours, and that was out of Riyadh, out of Prince Sultan Air Base. Yeah. I want to talk to the person who planned that, because I was like, what are you doing? That's 4 pilots. There's no beds in that. You're sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag if you remember to bring one.
Yeah. 3
air refuelings. And it's just like, you sleep as long as you want, you get up.
Yeah.
We're still not done.
Yeah.
We're still going, man. For a long time.
The story you were telling last night about the landing the 7.5 over there, we'll cover it in the next segment, but that one was really fun to listen to as well. That one's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. I can tell all kinds of stories.
Jet Cowboy Podcast drops today. Go check it out.
You mentioned earlier you're connected to original Tuskegee Airmen. What does that legacy mean to you, and how do you try to carry that forward?
So I found out, ironically, in 95 when I was 94, 95 when I was going to pilot training. My grandmother on my dad's side, which is where my uncle is, she's like, hey, did you know your uncle was flew in World War II? I was like, you don't think, like, all this time that you've known that I was, I'm about to go to pilot training, like, you don't think that was something? Oh, yeah. And he flew P-51. He was part of the 99th Pursuit Squadron. But, like, we didn't have any information, because when he came back after World War II, they were in Detroit. And so there weren't any opportunities outside of the military for African Americans to fly due to the time. And so he just went back to Ford Motor Company, did his thing, retired. Nobody ever talked about it.
Right.
She sent me a newspaper article, and then fast forward to this November. Well, actually about 3 years ago, I was trying to find some of his artifacts, and I found out the family members had already auctioned it all off. I'm like, golly, I would have bought it if I would have known. This past November, Tuskegee Airman Museum in Detroit reached out to me, and they said, hey, Captain Cole, we understand you have a tie to this individual. We have his wings and all of that stuff, his ribbons. And I'm like, heck yeah. I had to talk to the person who bought it. I reached out to that person, and he just this past January, he mailed it all to me for free, gave me his picture, his wings.
Yeah.
He had prop and wings. I wish I would have had that when I was in the military, because I would have obviously worn that. But I recognize that a lot of the things that I've done or that I've been able to do have been on because of other people ahead of me that have been able to kind of break down barriers.
Right.
And I think for him, he broke down, and all of the Tuskegee Airmen broke down a barrier of misbelief about capabilities of human beings. And without that happening, and without some individuals in the 60s to kind of break down the barriers in civilian aviation for commercial aviation, I would not have been able, I wouldn't be here today and do the things that I've been able to do.
Legacy Flight Academy, is that kind of how you're trying to pay it forward and pay homage to that, is through what you're doing with Legacy Flight Academy?
Yes.
Okay.
So throughout my life, I've always felt that giving back is the most important aspect of, because I didn't get here by accident. There are people ahead of me that did stuff, people that kind of pull me forward, and anyone I help, I try to say, hey, make sure you pay it forward by helping that next person behind you.
Mm-hmm.
And so Legacy Flight Academy is a grassroots program designed to kind of get kids interested and get them at that 12, 13, 14, 15 year to just say, hey, you want to be a pilot? You want to be a mechanic, aircraft mechanic? Hey, flight attendant, you want to fly King Airs? You want to do any of that stuff? That these are opportunities for you that you may not have ever thought about. Mm-hmm. And at least plant that seed. And I think that that's super important on growing. There's a lot of opportunities for people to kind of get in and do what we love as pilots.
So how is Legacy Flight Academy structured? What does it do to help get these kids interested in it?
So we have two main programs. One is called Positivity, Attitude, and Responsibility. That's PAR. And so we'll go out to schools. And so there's a number of us in the aviation industry, a number that are, most of the people on the board are Air Force, either in the Air Force or retired Air Force, that go out and we talk to students and we explain about the historic Tuskegee Airman, how we got to where we were. And then our main program is a day-long program, which we are doing today, right now in San Antonio. We're flying, I think they had 120 applicants, so they're flying 120 kids. It's a 4-phase program, so you talk about the historic Tuskegee Airman. We talk about careers in aviation. Various careers, all of the different ones are super important, and you don't have to just be a pilot, but there are other aspects that you can gain employment. A STEM-related activity, and that varies on the location. And then every kid, if they want to fly, gets to fly, and they get to fly. We think that that's super important, and we try to get representative groups. We have female pilots, male pilots, minority pilots, to kind of just match up so that they can dream, see somebody that they can dream and know that it's real.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you can talk the theory of it all day long and talk about how fun it is and hear the stories, but in my experience, that's where you really see people get engaged, is when they actually get in the aircraft and get a feel what that feels like and see what the world looks like from up there.
Yes.
And what's that like, flying around with those kids and seeing them experience that for the first time?
It's amazing because teenagers and preteens, they're like, oh, whatever, this is nothing. And then you take them up, and then they're trying to hide it. And they're like, oh, well, I mean, it was kind of cool. And they're like, oh. You see them react. And I think that the process behind getting all that stuff going and how we prep for it and how much energy it takes, it is all given back in spades when I see their faces and just see the kids. And our goal is, hey, if we can get 1 or 2 out of that 100, awesome. If we get more, even better. And we provide mentorship programs to help these, because there is a cost associated with becoming a pilot. So we push to, it's not just military, there are other avenues, grants and programs and scholarships that can help offset that cost. If that is your dream, we can help you find that.
What do you think it is that young people are misunderstanding about what opportunities are available in aviation as a career?
I just don't think they think it's real, or they'll self-eliminate. Like, well, I'm not smart enough to do that. Or I wear glasses, and we're like, hey, well, let's get to the root cause. Like, hey, are you correctable? And if you're not going to the military, can you pass class 3? Can you pass class 1 on your ability if you want to fly, and help them overcome those hurdles and educate them about the opportunities and recognize, hey, there are great opportunities in aviation to earn a living and grow and see the world. I think that that's super important when they may be just looking at the world just through a small pipe of like, well, I can only do this.
Right.
Like, hey, you can don't self-eliminate. This is possible. And we're lucky enough to have on the staff and the board, we have people that went all different routes. Mm-hmm. Like, I recognize that my particular route, going through the Air Force Academy and going to the military, people are like, well, I'm not smart enough to get into the Air Force Academy, or I was like, hey, you can go ROTC. You can go OTS. There's a lot. If you want to go fly military, there are a lot of different options for that. And we can help you manage that if that's something you want to do. And our mentorship and scholarship program are big on that.
I think a lot of younger people that don't have a positive influence in their life telling them that they can go do it, it's really important for them to hear that, because
1,000%.
I think a lot of people have a lot of people in their lives that say they can't do something and you can't do this, and it takes a really strong person to overcome that without some examples and people cheerleading them a little bit and getting around a group of people that want to be successful and figure out how to get it done instead of self-eliminating on it. So
yeah. And even when you're going through the process, just kind of, hey, this is what you got to expect, right? And so you understand. And even when I talk to people about coming to the airlines, I said, hey, the airlines it's a great job, but you're not fulfilled with it.
Right.
So you find what fulfills you, because the airlines is just here to like, hey, A to B, and you go on your 4-day trip with that person. I'm like, hey, I probably will never see you again. It was a great time.
Right.
And recognize that you're meeting different people. I recognize that I'm a talker. And so I like the engagement. I like the engagement of meeting somebody new, finding out their background, finding out about somebody new for 3-4 days.
Right.
If we fly again, that's awesome. And then you get some people who are like, it's okay if we don't fly again.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's okay if we don't
It's all right
fly
if I don't see you again.
What's the best place for people to get involved if they want to help with the Legacy Flight Academy? Is there a website they can go to, or how can people participate?
Yeah, our website is on there. Yeah, excellent. So legacyflightacademy.org. On there, there's a donate button if you want to donate. All the profits go to supporting the kids. We try to create these events. These events are expensive. If you think about bringing in 5 to 6 planes, aircraft fuel, the locations that we're trying to do to feed the kids, it is an expensive venue, but we try to offset it, and we try to make it free. Well, we do make it free for the participants, for all the students that come, because we don't want it to be cost prohibitive.
Yeah.
I'd love if you give me $20, I'd love it. We'll use it. Anything higher, $1,000 if you want to do that, that's even better. There's a volunteer link in there as well. Sign up to be a volunteer. We operate all throughout the United States. We go where the need is. So we recognize there are existing programs that we're not trying to compete against.
Yeah.
We try to go where there isn't something to help generate that, and then just create an excitement and hopefully get these youth interested in something that they can take a different career path and learn about, even all these vendors that are out here.
Yeah.
A lot of kids don't even know that there are these opportunities that are out there.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. We're short on pilots, we're short on technicians, we're short on people working in the back end shops. I mean, we need good qualified people, and I agree with you that a ton of people self-eliminate before they give it an option to even go down that career path. So
they think it's too expensive. They're like, oh, well, I can't do that. And don't let school, that's one thing that I let them know. I was like, school's important, but don't let that define who you are.
Right.
I think there's a big pressure sometimes in schools that they're like, you lined up here, so because you lined up here, that's where you're stuck in for the rest of your life. And I'm like, that's not true. Where that is just one competition that you're in, that once it's over, because nobody asks you when you graduate from high school, hey, where'd you get, what was your GPA?
Right.
Nobody cares about that in college. But recognizing that.
Guys, we'll get back to the video in a sec. But first, quick question for you business owners and high achievers watching. When you're traveling around the country for deals, scaling teams, or managing stress, are you actually flying with a team that makes your life easier? Or are you dealing with scheduling headaches, surprise maintenance bills, and too many moving parts behind the scenes? Well, that's why today's sponsor, Haven Aviation Services Group, exists. Think of them as the safe haven of the sky. Haven is a vertically integrated aviation company, meaning they handle everything under one roof, from your private jet charters, aircraft management, brokerage, maintenance, avionics, and premium grade services at their FBO. For aircraft owners especially, this is the absolute real best value. Instead of juggling pilots, insurance, scheduling, maintenance, hangars, legal docs, Haven manages it all in one place. No guessing, no surprises, and no wondering why something suddenly costs 6 figures. Their entire focus is transparency, safety, and long-term planning, so you actually trust the people managing your aircraft and don't have to stress about it at all. So if you want an aviation partner that operates with the same discipline and results-driven mindset we talk about on the show, hit the link in the description to connect with Haven Aviation Services Group. Big thanks to Haven ASG for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back to the show.
if you could sit down with your younger self at the Air Force Academy, what would you tell him?
It's going to be worth it.
Yeah.
Because, tell you what, that was a very challenging experience for me. You have academics, you have athletics, and you have your military training. And they lock in your day. And I would talk to my friends that were going to real colleges. So I was like, you don't have to go to class every day. We're going nonstop Monday through Friday. And then we had athletics in the afternoon. And then you have academic call to quarters. You can't go anywhere during the week. And you get Friday night and Saturday night. And then it all starts back up again. Just a very intense program that I think I would just say, stay the course. You're gonna love everything that you do, all of the experiences that you have. It's gonna be worth it.
Yeah.
So,
Where did you go to high school at? Like, what part of the country were you
in Los Angeles.
LA.
So my dad being military, I was born in Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, and then we moved to, I was in Charleston for a while when my dad was in Vietnam, and then we went to England for 5 years, Florida for 4 years, Japan for 3 years, and I graduated. I went to LA. My dad was stationed at LA Air Station. I lived there for 4 years, my high school years.
Nice.
And then I was able to take my wife and my kids back to Japan once I was flying for the reconnaissance, 82nd Reconnaissance Squadron. We moved out there for 3 years. That's when I realized that hill that I thought was the mountain.
All right.
When we drove by it, she's like, "Is this what you've been talking about?" I was like, "I swear it was bigger. I swear it was probably 1,000 feet." So
we all say that, don't worry.
Yeah. And for a military brat, when you go back to a place, it's very rare that you go back home or
Right.
any place that you live for a while. And it was really neat for me experience to go back where I was and see the things. I'm like, oh man, I remember this completely different.
Yeah.
And an experience that was super.
One thing I'm going to circle back on real quick. How do you make that leap, that bridge between being a reconnaissance pilot and then wind up being an Air Force One pilot? Like, what's that process look like? How does that selection process look like? Is it an application thing? Like, I don't think anybody knows, like, how do you go from this to this?
Fun fact on that. When I graduated from the Air Force Academy, I was like, hey, well, I guess this is my track. I'm going to fly RC-135. So, all right, I'm going to do this. And it wasn't until I was like 30 years old, I was like, hey, I can pick where I want to go. I don't have to just go where the Air Force tells me to go. I'm like, oh, man. And I saw this advertisement for the presidential to fly at the 89th Airlift Wing, which is that's where you would apply to.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to apply. And they're like, all right, well, you have to have 2,500 hours. You need to be an instructor and evaluator on a major weapons system, which I met all of those. And at the time, they were only taking majors and lieutenant colonels because they wanted to be able to have that many hours in the military. It takes a while to get that. And so I was already a senior pilot. Now I made command pilot while I was there. All of those requirements, you take that, and then it was a 2-day interview process. So I flew from Japan all the way to DC. 2-day interview where they talk to you about expectations, and in a lot of ways, I don't know if any of you are in the corporate business dealing with or flying high net worth individuals. It is about dealing with people, how to say no to people, and understanding like, hey, I could say no in a nice way, not saying, hey, whatever, you're dumb, you're not going to do that, but just finding out the nice way to kind of say that thing. You had to pass the security. I had already had a top secret for all the missions I was doing with the reconnaissance squadron. So then I had to get a Yankee White, which is the presidential security. And so they just do a deep dive into your stuff. And what they didn't tell you, and then you find out afterwards, is they have an evening event where you can just sit back and you can drink. It's open bar and all that stuff. And they just see, like, are you going to get trashed?
Yeah.
Because if you're going to get trashed, they don't want you.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy, hey, if you want a drink, you can have a drink, but manage
a little
yourself.
Bit of a test,
Manage yourself in situation and how you interact with everyone. And then the last one is, are you cool? Can we fly with you?
Yeah.
Are you good? And so it was a super interesting experience that I had never, but it prepped me for all my other interviews that I had. So I was like, oh, all right.
So it wasn't real deep on the actual flying side. It was more about your
You'd already
character
proven
and
that.
your integrity and all those things on it.
So you'd already proven everything else. Your flying skills were already proven. If in the military, you don't make aircraft commander unless somebody recommends you, and you don't make instructor until you've proven yourself as an aircraft commander, and you definitely don't make an evaluator.
Yeah.
Because only a select few can be evaluator. So because I'd already reached all those pinnacles, it was pretty straightforward at that point.
Right. We're about to the end of our time on this segment. I've got about 4,000 more questions I want to ask.
All right. Hey, I love it. Yeah, no, I enjoy it.
We'll continue this on here in a little bit. If any of you guys want to hear the rest of his story, just go follow the Flyin High podcast on YouTube or any of the big platforms. and we'll get the rest of your story out there pretty soon. And I really appreciate your time. Anything else you want to say to the live audience before we wrap up here?
Hey, thank you. It's a pleasure being out here around all you rich King Air owners and stuff. Isn't it like a boat? Like your best day is when you buy it, second best day is when you sell it. But it's amazing. I was just telling my wife this morning. I was like, hey, we flew on a King Air. It was a C-12, an Army C-12. We went from Kadena to Korea. I was like, hey, you remember, you've been in one of these planes. She's like, oh, yeah. Two guys. The guy took a call during the flight. I was like, oh, probably wasn't supposed to do that. It's all good. But thank you all. Thank you for letting me come here and share a little bit about my story. I'm thankful. It's funny sometimes because I don't think, like, nobody wants to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
And,
well, you got a room full of aviation junkies right now, so prime audience for you.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking the time. He's going to hang out here if you guys want to talk to him anymore. And thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you,
Appreciate it.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have been cleared for takeoff. You are now flying high with Travis Lamance.